Hey everybody, it's Pax. Welcome back to Alice in Wonderland. We're continuing along with the Interlude, Griffin and the Mock Turtle. The shadows have kept you on edge for too long already in your journey. Even in an open field where the sun beams down on you from above, you scan the horizon in constant search for any sign of approaching darkness. Have the shadows been curbed at all by your efforts, or are they unstoppable while their master prepares to feast on Arkham? The questions tax your psyche further as you continue your trek through Wonderland. Your vigilance finally pays off as you spot an airborne figure moving towards you at great speed. You brace for a fight, but it wheels up high above you, circling like a vulture around a dying animal. You remain still on the sunny field, dreading what the strange entity might be all the while. Tense moments pass before the figure descends in a surprising burst of speed and lands in the tall grass before you. The strange beast before you is equally split between eagle and lion, a griffin in the flesh if there ever was one, and it regards you curiously as it settles its wings. Another visitor to Wonderland, how very peculiar. It leans uncomfortably close to you and strokes the underside of its beak with one claw pensively. You've chosen a poor time for sightseeing, I'm sorry to say. The stability of the place has been lacking, and those shadowy beasts have been gnawing about like termites. Your relief at meeting a more congenial resident of Wonderland is quickly replaced by your unease at the Griffin's statements. The Griffin takes note of your concern and nods sagely. Curious to see the trouble yourself? My, but you're a morbid sort. But it just might take a sort to sort through it all. The Griffin chuckles and puffs up a bit at his own play on words, reveling for a moment before turning his side to you. Come, don't shy away now. The only way to see the state of things is from the air. Again, you'll find yourself with conflicting feelings. On the one hand, this could help you gather information easily, and even assist in your travels. On the other hand, however, being hundreds of feet up in the air on the back of one of Wonderland's capricious creatures could prove fatal. Your curiosity wins out in the end, however, as you climb onto the Griffin's back gingerly. Check the campaign log. If there are 7 or more tally marks under Strength of Wonderland, skip to Shadow's Churn. The Griffin ascends with a half-cry, half-roar, and you grip into its feathers for dear life. Your view changes rapidly as you rise above the treetops and can see for miles in every direction. By your reckoning, Wonderland is very nearly pristine, though the darkness roils on the horizon no matter where you look. In your campaign log, record that the shadows grow stronger with each passing moment. Based on the difficulty level, add the following chaos token to the chaos bag for the remainder of the campaign. Standard, -5. Proceed to the lobster quadrille. Quadrille? Quadrille. Sure. Satisfied? The Griffin probes. The view is much less dismal from the ground. You consider the state of Wonderland and the shadows once more briefly before you nod. At once, the Griffin wheels back down to earth, swooping this time towards a quiet lagoon on the edge of a vast body of water. Come, I know just the thing to liven your spirits after such a sight. My friend the Mock Turtle is quite a songster, to say nothing of his education. You try to envision just what a Mock Turtle might look like, but the creature the Griffin lands next to doesn't match any of your ideas. The Mock Turtle resembles a sea turtle, but with the head of a cow. He sits at the water's edge, staring down into the pools, with a smile on his face, but tears leaking from his eyes. Ahoy and what ho, the Griffin calls out. Enjoying the dance? It's a sight for sore feet, the Mock Turtle murmurs with a nod. You give the creature a hesitant hello, and he waves a flipper at you without looking. His attention is firmly fixed on the waves in front of him. You stand beside the Mock Turtle and look into the water, seeing at once a bizarre spectacle. Sea creatures of 100 varieties dance together in a complicated but stately fashion just under the water's surface. The Mock Turtle splashes his flippers in the surf in time with the muffled music, still sniffling but enjoying himself. Not wanting to ask the Mock Turtle bluntly, you take the Griffin aside and quietly question why the creature is in such an emotional state. The poor fellow knows the state of Wonderland as well as I do, the Griffin responds with a pitying glance at his friend. He often used to cry in his spare time, but now that he's found something serious to give him sorrow, he's doing all he can to distract himself. The Mock Turtle hums to himself as the dancing continues, utterly enthralled. It's for the best, don't you know? The Griffin chuckles. No sense dwelling on such grim matters. You frown at the Griffin's statement. Sitting by idly is only going to help Garath in its conquest. You warn the two creatures of the dangers the hungry shadows could pose if left unchecked. The Mock Turtle covers his ears with two flippers and shakes his head, while the Griffin scowls at your stories. Such topics aren't polite, not one jot. The Griffin scolds you. The Mock Turtle nods with a whimper and chimes in after. There's so much misery to be had. Only let us ration it. Let us sing of soup and schools, and join the lobsters in the quadrille. The investigators must decide. Get up, this is your chance to make a difference, or fine, when your world falls apart, don't come crying to me. Well, get up, this is your chance to make a difference. Proceed to sadder but wiser. The task of opposing Gurath Naka is too important for you to allow this apathy. You go to great lengths to explain the threat of the shadows, ignoring their protests. You spare no detail in the power, the relentlessness, and the wanton destruction the shadows are capable of. The Griffin brushes off each grim retelling, and the Mock Turtle shakes his head woefully, trying not to listen. It is only when you begin talking about Arkham's destruction that the conversation seems to affect them. You describe the chaos and madness that engulfed the city when last you saw it. Each place and person you once held dear will be lost forever if you can't find a way to root Gurath Naka out of Alice's dreams. The Mock Turtle bursts into a fresh cascade of tears, while the Griffin draws upward indignantly. That is quite enough, he bellows. The poor fellow has delicate sensibilities, you know. And now that you've... No, the Mock Turtle blubbers, placing a flipper between the two of you. What's made me sad is that I've been so intolerably selfish. We both have. The Griffin's beak opens in shock, and he stumbles over his words, but can't voice any protest to the statement. To think that such sorrow was inside you, we simply must help. The Griffin regains his composure quickly, and though he still looks irritated at being made to look callous, he nods with a grumbling agreement. In your campaign log, record 1 tally mark under the strength of Wonderland. In your campaign log under Wonderland boons, record the Griffin and the Mock Turtle. Skip to guidance from Alice. You feel more than a little drained from dealing with the two hodgepodge creatures as you set back on the journey through Wonderland. You try to orient yourself from what you recall of the landscape from the back of the Griffin, but it's all somehow wrong. Once again, Wonderland seems to be shifting to keep you out, or, at this point, in. As you stare about the jumbled countryside, a single feather drifts into view, much like one from the Griffin's own coat. You look up to see hundreds of feathers floating on the breeze, slowly shifting into a long line that winds through the trees and over the rolling hills. You have a feeling that you have Alice to thank once again for helping you navigate this madcap world. You march forward, following the feather trail while it lasts, but your thoughts drift backwards to the view from the Griffin's back. The balance between Wonderland's stability and Gurath Naka's advance is more precarious than you first imagined. Questions and fears mix in your mind with each step forward. Will the discoveries and insights you've gained be enough to beat back the shadows from Arkham? Has Arkham already been reduced to irreversible ruin? Or will you even be able to escape from Wonderland back into the real world at all? Each question returns you the same answer. You won't know until you've tried. With everything else in Wonderland so uncertain, the one thing you have to trust is your own decisions, come what may. You press on for better or worse, braced for the consequences. If the investigators went down the rabbit hole, proceed to Scenario 2D, Wild Snark Chase. But first, let's go take a look at our deck building. So Tommy did do great last scenario, and I'm a little nervous about the changes I'm making here. The big thing is that he kind of just didn't get his guns out, and he couldn't deal with the enemies that were spawning. And so I'm really nervous to be cutting 2 Winchesters, but I kind of want to get these out of my deck so that I can be doing something a little different. I want to go for, getting my Becky out, having some survival knives with a bandolier, and maybe this is the wrong way to go about it. I'm getting another Ever Vigilant, a survival knife, and 2 flares in. I'm going to use the flares as on attack attached to stick to the plan, as like a last-ditch effort, and I'll be replacing those with Tetsuo Mori, hopefully recurring my Thompsons or something like that. But for now, I figure I'll be looking for a bandolier to get a survival knife out, and then the other flare, I suppose, can just be used to fetch an ally from the deck, and that way these survival knives aren't just letting me take hits to the chin. But I think this is an okay way to go about it. I'm a little worried about card draw, actually being able to see these until I get Tetsuo to search my deck, but we'll see how that goes. And then for Norman, what I've done, I haven't found that Written in the Stars has been doing a lot for me. Not that I couldn't use it, but that I kind of just am choosing not to because, you know, between Sixth Sense and Mists and Divination and just taking blank tests with really good icons from astronomical stuff, and the fact that my hand's always full anyways, I don't really need to investigate 3 times with Deduction. I don't really need to investigate with Sixth Sense 3 times with Guts, or Eureka 3 times, or Perception 3 times. It's just not working. So I'm dropping those in favor of a single Ward of Protection and a Storm of Spirits level 3. I think that a Storm of Spirits level 3 will help me kind of fill in the gaps a little bit with where Tommy's at. If we get in a really bad spot, I can just dump that out and get a bunch of damage on a bunch of enemies. And then Ward, we're kind of suffering through a lot of treacheries and stuff, so I'm going to be getting a second Ward of Protection as well once I've got a bit more XP to show for it. And I think the Delves are coming out soon as well. Depending on what my next upgrades are, the Edge of the Earth player cards just got, I guess, fully leaked into Tabletop Simulator, and so I'll probably be playing with them in the next scenario. If you're concerned about spoilers, I guess this is the scenario to cut it off at for like official content. But for now, the Delves are still in because we only got 5 in the last scenario, and if this next one's not very good on dishing out XP as well, I'd like to be able to get these extra 2 if I can. So now that we're done our upgrades, let's go take a look at the scenario setup. Scenario 2D, Wild Snark Chase. The forest around you grows darker and more tangled with each step. It reminds you of the witch-haunted woods on the outskirts of Arkham in several respects. Each echoing sound might be some eerie creature stalking your steps, or another of Gareth Naka's shadows, hungering for your essence. Your worries escalate as the clear path you'd been following dead ends in a bramble patch. You scan the tangle for any sign of a way through or around, but without any promise. Your eyes return to the path you arrived by, only to find that the forest has swallowed it without any trace. It's almost as if the woods themselves were actively working to confuse you, like many of Wonderland's other denizens. Now at a loss for direction, you stumble forward through the rough terrain as long as the fading light allows. Each passing moment gradually amplifies your fear of being ambushed out from the darkness. You press on until finally, at the foot of a gnarled tree, you make a campfire from the fallen branches to wait out the night. Not an hour into your rest, you are awoken by the clanging of a bell and the clamor of nearby voices. You rouse yourself from sleep and find that your campfire is somehow missing, though a purring chuckle directs your attention above your head. The Cheshire Cat holds the burning logs in 2 paws, waving them like signal lanterns. Noticing that you're awoken, the cat grins and sets the fire back down before disappearing once more. A crowd of 10 figures rushes eagerly into the clearing around the tree, only to stop with groans and sighs. "'Tisn't a snark at all," a proud-looking man cries, waving his bell for attention. "Though snarks are handy for striking a light, this one's been lit by someone or another." The hunters seat themselves around your fire with several shows of exhaustion. "At least it wasn't a boojum," a man with a baker's hat mutters as he wipes the sweat from his brow thankfully. "We'd all have vanished away if that were the case," the bellman retorts, seating himself beside you. He looks you over for a moment, as if just noticing you, and stands once more. "By chance, would you also be hunting a snark?" You shake your head and explain that you've gotten lost in the woods here. "What luck, we're lost as well," he exclaims with a smile. "But a snark's the cure for that. A snark is useful for many great things, and finding one's way surely might be one of them. You're quite welcome to join our search, pending your profession." You look to the hunters and see a banker, a butcher, a beaver, and others, all with jobs beginning with B. You think for a moment to tell the bellman that you could be considered a bodyguard, and he leads his fellows in a cheer. "Just what we chiefly need. We'll find the snark in no time at all now. The Tulgey wood may be dense as a dunce, and thicker than thieves, but we'll find the snark in spite of it." So the setup's already done in Tabletop Simulator, as always. You've got your sets there. We've got our new boon, the Griffin and the Mock Turtle, added to our list of boons that are going to be shuffled into the encounter deck. Set aside out of play, we've got the Jabberwock, a deck of cards that are going to be shuffled in later when he comes into play, and the Vorpal Blade. We've got our Trail deck set up, which is explained beautifully here on this notepad. We place the Baker's Trail on the bottom. We randomly select 2 cards from the second stack, right there, the Barrister's Trail and the Butcher's Trail. And then we randomly select 2 cards from the 3rd stack and place them on top of the other 3 cards. So the Boots Trail and the Bogmaker's Trail. Finally, our locations in play are the Tum Tum Tree, the Mound of Crags, the Wabe, the Field of Chasms, and the Narrow Valley, all part of the Tulgey Wood Wonderland. And finally, the Bellman, the level-headed leader, begins play with us at the Tum Tum Tree. Here's what the bag is looking like for the scenario. There's the -5 I've added. Skulls are -X, which is the half of the current doom. Half the doom on the current agenda, so I'm presumably not excluding doom in play. The Elder Thing here is at -2. It'll be -4 whenever the Jabber walks in play, and the Cultist is a -4. If it's your turn, you may spend an action to make this a -2 instead. To do up our opening hands here, I've chosen Act of Desperation, Ever Vigilant, and Flare to be on Tommy's Stick to the Plan, and let's see what we get. Psychosis goes away. I'll have to remember to shuffle that in. And we've got Gret, Look What I Found, Marksmanship, and 2 45 Thompsons. So let's have a think. I think we're going to be mulliganing 1 Thompson, a Marksmanship, and a Look What I Found to try and hope to get a couple more assets, maybe ones that can be played with the Ever Vigilant. Right now I'm looking at a bit of an awkward opening hand where my Ever Vigilant isn't actually playing all of my assets in hand. So let's see what happens when I mulligan for 3. We lose our Rookie Mistakes as well. We get the other Ever Vigilant, and we get an Enchant Weapon and a Glory. So definitely a bit of an awkward opening hand from Tommy. Let's not forget to shuffle in our mulligan. And then over here for Norman, we're going to be shuffling and looking at the top 5 cards for him as well. We don't get a whole lot here. I think I'll be definitely keeping this Mists of Rilia. The Crack the Case might be really handy for him, and in fact, I think just right off the bat, thinking about what's in Tommy's hand there, I'm going to keep the Deduction and the Crack the Case so that I can hand him a bunch of money and he can actually play that Ever Vigilant a bit more usefully. So we're just going to go ahead and do that, and that is quite the opening hand. In fact, that's really nice to have the Sixth Sense early, the Mists of Rilia early, both of the Deductions. That's going to be really easy opening couple of turns, I think. So up here for the agenda and act deck, we've got 'Twas Brillig. Despite the enthusiasm of the Bellman and his party, you have some reservations about searching through these woods in the dark. You get the unsettling feeling that as you search for the Snark, something far stranger and far stronger hunts for you. 3 Doom Threshold, and an action, take 1 physical trauma and 1 mental trauma to resign. You break away from the search and hope to find the trail out. Act 1A, Babes in the Woods. Onward to the Snark, the Bellman shouts as the hunters scatter into the Tulgey Wood. Search high and low, for Snark might lurk in any tree or hollow. Once we've gotten our bearings, it's as good as found. You're not convinced it'll be that easy, or if the creature even resides in these woods at all. But some reconnaissance can't hurt. The investigators at any location may activate the Bellman's abilities. As an action, if there is no horror on your location, spend 1 per investigator clues as a group, so 2 clues as a group, to place a horror token from that location from the token bank. Place a horror token on that location from the token bank. Objective, if there are 6 revealed Tulgey Wood locations, advance. So you'll notice that we start here with 5 Tulgey Wood locations, so I have to reveal all of these and get more into play. One of the important things that I failed to mention right here is that the top card of the trail deck that we created a couple minutes ago is considered to be in play for resolving its forced effect. And what that means is that we currently have a forced effect that if there are exactly 3 locations without horror on them, flip this card and put it into play. So once we've used the horror placement ability on the act twice, we'll be flipping that story card over. Now let's get started. We're here at the Tum Tum Tree with the Bellman, who I didn't read out a minute ago. He gives a +1 willpower. He's a 3/3 health and sanity, but more importantly, we can trigger these abilities on him wherever we are. When a card effect would force you to lose any amount of resources, exhaust him and deal damage to him to ignore that part of the effect. Or, when a card would force you to deal discard any amount of cards from your hand, exhaust the Bellman and deal a horror to him to ignore that part of the effect. With the confidence he carries, one might assume that he knows what he's doing. And we're here at the Tum Tum Tree, the perfect spot for resting and standing in thought. The Bellman rallies the Snark hunters from the tree, encouraging them with the loud clanging of his bell. And the Tum Tum Tree is a 2-shroud one per investigator location, with an ability search all play areas and out of play areas for the Jabberwock, including the victory display, ready it, and move it to the Tum Tum tree. In your campaign log, under Fragments of Alice, record Courage. One last thing before we start, I'm going to shuffle Norman's deck because I forgot to put his discard away there, and then we're going to put the top card of our deck, Revealed, which is an Astronomical Atlas, and it will be very useful to get out as soon as we can. In fact, that might be his very first action. So looking at this 2-shroud location, I think what I plan to do with Norman, of picking up the clues and handing the money over to Tommy, is exactly what we're going to start off with. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually play our Astronomical Atlas from the top of our deck, using Norman's ability, and then revealing the next top card of the deck. Ooh, crack the case. That would be nice to have. But we're not going to get that, I don't think, for this one. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me think about that. No, I think there's something pretty clever we can do here. So what we can do is we can exhaust the Astronomical Atlas to look at that and attach it. So we'll be doing that and revealing the next card of our deck. And then what we'll be doing is immediately investigating the location with a deduction committed, and we will also commit to Crack the Case, which puts us at 7 against the Shroud of 2. Now, because this is, if that test succeeds, add that card to your hand instead of discarding it, I can add this to my hand as a Step 7 test result before I discover the clues. The 7 against 2 gets us pretty good over the bag here with a deduction. It's a nice opening for me, I think. And let's see what we get. We get the -3. Okay, so that means it's a successful test. So our first Step 7 test result is going to be adding this Crack the Case to our hand when the test is successful. Whoops, let's grab that back. And then the next Step 7 test result is going to be gathering both of the clues with a deduction. Location over here. And then after we've discovered the last remaining clue at our location, we can play 2 Crack the Case to hand Tommy 1, 2, 3, 4 resources in total. And then last action, just to be a little safe, I think we're going to get this Miss Aurelia into play. Now that's really cool for Tommy, because that means that I've got 9 resources that I can use Ever Vigilant to play my Thompson and Gret with. But I think I'm actually going to take a draw action first, so that if I get another card I could play, I might have some different options. So we'll do a draw action first. We just get to look what I found. Not a whole lot else going on this turn, so let's just do another draw action in case I get a cherished keepsake. It's Madame Lebranche. Madame makes this a little bit trickier for me, because if I had one more resource, I could play the Thompson, Gret, and Madame for 10 resources. And so it makes me want to delay it until next turn. I'm not certain if that's actually a good idea. Sometimes when you don't play Ever Vigilant, when you're given the opportunity to for a big gun, you don't get that opportunity back. But because Norman was able to play his mists, I think I'm comfortable just doing one more draw action. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards in hand. Actually, you know what I think I'll do instead of a draw action? I'll use the 2 clues off of Norman to put a horror on our location. Reason being, I don't want to get myself over my maximum hand size if I don't have to. I don't really want to take a resource because Madame Lebranche is going to give me a resource if I set myself to 0 anyways. And, I mean, I've got time to do this now. It's not a big deal. That's one of the horror. If I get one more horror on another location, I'll be looking at that top card of the trail deck and reading through that. But that's the end of our investigator turns. We'll do our upkeep phase. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Ooh, another Astronomical Atlas on top. And then we will hit our first Doom of the Mythos phase. And we'll take a look and see if that gambit on holding off on Ever Vigilant paid off or not. And it kind of did. I think that I can deal with that. Over here on Norman, we get Cognitive Dissonance. If you do not control any clues, this gains Surge. Bummer. The Dodo. Put him into play next to the agenda deck. Well, I don't like putting stuff up by the agenda deck because I forget about it, so let's put it over here. And he surges into the Griffin and the Mock Turtle. And we'll put him right here next to the Dodo. And he surges into a Slithy Tove. a 3-2-1 with Hunter and Alert. After he's successfully evaded, move it to a connecting location and ready it. Oh, interesting. Funnily enough, we drew Griffin of the Mock Turtle, and that makes it so I don't have to use Norman to come evade this guy. I can actually just play my Ever Vigilant. I think I'm going to be playing it off of my Stick to the Plan, because this one can be used for icons if necessary. So we'll be playing our Ever Vigilant off our Stick to the Plan. And when he does his attack of opportunity, I just cancel that attack. And we discard the Griffin and the Mock Turtle. So first action, we'll be playing 3 assets from our hand, reducing the resource cost of each by 1. So we're playing Gret for 1, 2, 3, 4. We are playing Madame Lebranche for 1. And we are playing our 45 Thompson for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, using the Madame Lebranche to gain a resource. Next, we're going to be taking a shot at the Slithy Tove. I know that I have the mists to evade him, but it's not a very big map. Moving him to a connecting location and readying him means he's just going to be moving back to the center anyways. So I've got the time now. I may as well defeat him while I can. So we're attacking for 4, 5, 6, 7. That gives us a resource. So we're attacking 7 against 3, and let's see what we get. We get a Cultist, which, as a reminder, is a -4. So that means we hit for 2 damage, defeating the Slithy Tove, and we will play Glory from our hand after we defeat an enemy for 2 cards. The Executioner's Axe and a Vicious Blow. Ooh, that Vicious Blow comes at a perfect time, because now we can take our shot with the 45 Thompson against the Mome Wrath, the only creature that could outgribe this loudly, who is currently a 4-3-2. That will get us up a little bit higher. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I get another resource. 8 against 4, which is pretty good. The -5 make me a little bit nervous, but let's see what we get. A Skull, which is currently, I believe I haven't adjusted it. We do have 1 Doom after all, which means that our skulls are currently sitting at -1. But a -1 is still successful, and that means that we deal 3 damage to the Mome Wrath, and he is also defeated. Unfortunately, no clues to the location, so we're not going to be triggering Gret this turn. But that leaves Norman pretty well open to do whatever he wants. I think that we're going to get our double Astronomical Atlas nonsense into play. They're just so good. So we're going to play that off the top of our deck for 2 resources. Take a look at a Delve, which means that we're currently locked up for the turn. We can't we can't attach any cards to that. I could put it on there if I wanted to lock it out for the rest of the game, but I did mention that I kept it in the deck specifically for it to be used. So let's go do a move. We'll move over to the Wabe. Inexplicably, the wood parts in a small clearing where a sundial sits in a circle of grass. There's a 2 shroud, 2 per investigator location for 4 clues total. If there are no horror and no clues on the Wabe, place a horror token on the Wabe from a token bank. Oh, interesting. A number of different nests clumped together under the sundial. It's really interesting that this lets me add horror aside from how the act works. I wonder if that means that getting the clues and keeping them for other purposes is going to be a thing that we're looking at. Either way, we're going to go ahead and get some clues, so that was our move, and then we're going to be doing Investigate here at 5. Let's go... You know what I might do? I might throw in my Perception and my Deduction, draw past this Delve so that I can see what else I'm getting on my Atlases for the future. So we're going to be at 5, 6, 7, 8 against 2. A -1 is successful. That means that we're going to be drawing our Delve too deep. Whoops. Tossing it over into Tommy's hand again. Whoopsies. And then we're going to be gathering our 2 clues from the location. Now, I think I've got an interesting choice here with this Ward of Protection. A single wild icon is not hugely impressive, and it might not actually make me pass tests. But it's still a decent icon to have. And I think I'm going to attach that to one of my Astronomical Atlases. And then let's see what the next card is. It's a Eureka. That's definitely going on an Astronomical Atlas. And then we've got an Enraptured. Perfect. I think that was a pretty successful turn, so we'll go ahead and do our upkeep. A Cherished Keepsake, and, ooh, the Hypochondria comes into play. And a Crystalline Elder Sign on the top of the deck. Now, I don't think I'm going to be playing that, but it is another wild icon. Up to 2 out of 3 Doom. That is not a very big threshold. And then in counter cards, we see Vanished Away. Choose a player who does not currently control the Cheshire Cat. The player immediately takes control of him. So the cat moves over to Norman. Surges into flipping the Cheshire Cat. Okay, well, we flip him. There he goes. He's in failure mode now. And that surges into Looking Glass Swarm. Test 3 Agility. If you fail, put Looking Glass Swarm into play in your threat area. Your attacks cannot deal more than 1 damage. You cannot discover more than 1 clue while investigating. Discard Looking Glass Swarm. Well, I think he just fails that. There's a very, very low likelihood of him passing. So we're testing 2 against 3, and we get a -5. So he extraordinarily fails that. He's probably going to be double actioning to remove that. Over here on Norman, we get Bandersnatch. Hunter, spawn furthest location from all investigators. If Bandersnatch moved during the enemy phase, it does not attack. After an investigator enters Bandersnatch's location, it readies, engages, and attacks that investigator. You've never seen something so frumious before. Well, let's find the location farthest from all investigators. So he's going to be going to the Mound of Crags, the Narrow Valley, or the Field of Chasms, and I don't think it really matters which one, so let's just throw him on the Narrow Valley. So before turn start, I think I'm going to use my Astronomical Atlas to take this Crystalline Elder Sign off the top of my deck, to put it there with the Ward of Protection, and we'll see another Delve. Okay, so we're locked up there again. And now I need to think about how Tommy is going to deal with his Bandersnatch. I guess he just is going to move to me and I'm going to deal with him next turn, but I'm a little nervous letting him move to me and deal with him next turn when the agenda is also about to advance. So I think that Norman is probably going to need to come back as well. One of the nice things that goes on here with Norman is that I've got this Astronomical Atlas with this Eureka attached to it. I've got this Delve Too Deep snagged up on the top of my deck that I can't keep churning through. I can obviously investigate my location with a Eureka, and also probably let's go with the Ward of Protection as well, just to get it into my hand. That would mean I'm investigating at 5, 6, 7 against 2. -5, that's a success. We're going to be grabbing the clue from the location, but more importantly, the Ward of Protection is going to be going to my hand. Oh, I'm going to have to remember that. And then I get to use my Eureka, which lets me look at the top 3 cards of my deck and add one of them to my hand. And let's add this shortcut. Oh, well, it's not going to cooperate with me again today. And then these get shuffled back in, and I reveal the next top card, which is now a Hierophant, which is a lot more useful for filling in these spell slots for me. But that's the Eureka, and then let's go grab that clue from over here. And now that I've got a shortcut in hand, I'm actually pretty comfortable tossing in another Investigate to try and get that last clue, shortcutting back after I've done the action there. Oh yeah, no, I did just notice though that Hierophant is another iconless card, so that's another one that Astronomical is kind of stuck up on. Anyways, next action, we're 5 against 2 for an Investigate, and I think I just let that one go. We're committing pretty heavily a lot right now, and I'd like to slow that down a little. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the commits are limited once per test. So let's just commit the Crystalline Elder Sign to it anyways to get a 6 against 2. The Elder Thing, which I believe is a -2 so long as the Jabberwock is not in play. So that means we draw our Crystalline Elder Sign. God, I have to remember that. And then we get the clue from the location. Now finally, we can do this action here. If there are no horror and no clues on the wave, place a horror token on the wave from the token bank. And there it is. And now we have exactly 3 locations without horror on them, so we flip this card and put it into play. But let's read the story text here. No arrangement could be made to satisfy the beast, the bonnet maker despairs. If it refuses a bonnet, then it must be indoors. You hold your tongue at the notion, but the echoes of some strange beast from a secluded cave cause you to reconsider. Rough Hinterlands, the Bonnetmaker's Trail. Say 3 Shroud, 2 Clues location. With an action, if there is no horror on Rough Hinterlands, test for 2 willpower. Gets +1 difficulty per investigator. If you succeed, place a horror token on the Rough Hinterlands from the token bank. This is the star location, which means that it's connected currently between the Narrow Valley and the Field of Chasms. I'll just turn my overlay on really quickly to draw that connection in. There we go. Now for a moment, I almost flipped this one over as well, but I just put a location into play so there aren't exactly 3 locations without horror on them anymore. So we're going to be holding off on the Boots Trail for until we place another horror. Which I guess is kind of the advantage that I got from picking up these clues. It's going to be really easy to just place horrors using the act now. So that's, I guess I kind of see what that was trying to do there. So that was my last action on Norman, but I think what I had resigned myself to do was to use the shortcut to head back to meet up with Tommy. And that'll make it so that if I really need to, I can just have the Bandersnatch engage on Norman and evade him. I think that I like that because he is pretty tricky, and I do have the charges now, and I don't know what's coming on that act flip. I suspect there may be some Jabberwock nonsense with how short that timer is. I guess we'll see. Over here on Tommy, however, we're just going to toss our Cherished Keepsake into play, and we're going to double action this Looking Glass Swarm, because not being able to deal more than 1 damage sounds abysmal. Let's not deal with that. The Bandersnatch is going to hunt over, and like I said, I'm going to have him hunt directly onto Norman. And when he moves during the enemy phase, he does not attack. So that's an interesting one. Fortunately, Hypochondria is not going to be doing anything to us this turn. So we're going to do our upkeep. There's another copy of Madame Lebranche. Get the Hierophant off the deck there, and we get a Eureka on the top of the deck. So that'll be useful to toss on our Atlas. In fact, that'll be useful just for evading the Bandersnatch with the Mists of Rilia. Up here, we're getting our 3rd Doom, which is going to advance the agenda. An Awful Burbling. The Tulgey Wood reverberates with a horrible noise, an indescribable hissing, gurgling, roaring sound. You don't have to ask what sort of monster could make that noise as you see it hurtling through the woods towards you. It is an enormous, loathsome thing, with fiery eyes and razor-sharp claws that rends trees apart as it passes. Fear courses through your veins, and you have scant seconds to decide whether to run or fight. Search all play areas and out-of-play areas, including the victory display for the Jabberwock, and move it to the lead investigator's location. Shuffle the remainder of the set-aside Jabberwocky encounter set into the encounter deck. So, just as I suspected, the Jabberwock is spawning at our location. He is massive, retaliate, alert, 4 combat, 3 evade, and 8 health total. He gets +1 damage and +1 horror during the enemy phase, so I guess he's dealing less damage on attacks of opportunity. Forced at the end of the round, disengage the Jabberwock from all investigators and move it and all tokens on it next to the agenda deck out of play, victory 2. So, I'm assuming that he's going to be popping in and out of play a fair amount, based on that last bit of text there. So, let's not worry too much about killing him for now. Finally, his encounter set here is going to shuffle into the encounter deck, without including the encounter discard pile. So that's going to be a pretty dense... Well, I guess it's only a couple cards out, about 6 cards out. But it is going to be a denser population of Jabberwock-related stuff in the encounter deck from now on. So we're looking at Agenda 2A, a Manzome Foe. It's the Jabberwock, the bellman cries, and rings his bell in wild alarm. The warning doesn't help you in the slightest, however, as you are already in the throes of battle with it. The monster swoops and vanishes in its wild attacks, making you wonder just where and when it will strike next. You try to keep up the search while accounting for this added menace, but the Jabberwock's attacks has drawn the attention of much darker beings. We're now at a 5 Doom threshold, and we still have the Resign that will take a physical and mental trauma. And then heading to the Mythos phase for Tommy, let's see what the damage is. We've got a Borogrove. A Surge, Hunter Aloof. When any amount of damage would be dealt to another enemy at Borogrove's location, deal that damage to Borogrove instead. This one looks particularly mimsy. The Eyes of Flame. Test 3 willpower. This test gets +1 difficulty and peril if the Jabberwock's in play. Well, if it's peril. If you fail, take a horror and discard 2 cards from your hand at random. Oh dear, that is not good. That is not even remotely good. I guess one thing to consider is that my skulls are back at 0 after the agenda flipped there. But those odds are bad. They're not good. And also, my Elder Thing is currently a -4 while the Jabberwock is in play, just for the one turn. I don't know that committing icons is going to be all that useful. So I think, begrudgingly, I'll be taking this 3 against 4 and just eating the 2 cards lost. That is a -4. I could make it a -1 if I wanted to lose an action. Oh, it's not my turn, so no, I can't. So we're going to be flipping our hand over, shuffling it, and the 2 rightmost cards are getting discarded. That's the Enchant Weapon, and that is Madame Lebranche. Losing the Enchant Weapon is pretty painful. Madame Lebranche is, I guess, acceptable. And then over here on Norman Withers, we get a Jib Bird. 3/2/3, Hunter Aloof. At the start of the enemy phase, if Jib Bird is ready and unengaged, it attacks each investigator at its location in player order. Well, I guess cutting those weapons out of Tommy was not a great call. We're getting pretty harried here. So let's see what we can do. Well, he is aloof, so he's not actually engaged with Norman there. And now that I'm looking at the Bellman's effect here again, I think that I'm going to go ahead and say that I would use the damage. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that for Tommy there, those 2 cards are a bit too essential. If I'd remembered this was here before I chose to discard any, I definitely would have used it. So I'm going to be placing a horror on him to get those cards back to my hand, because I don't think, with the Executioner's Axe and Enchant Weapon in hand, I really wasn't willing to lose any cards. And if I'd remembered this was here, I definitely would have used it. Finally, in our free triggered ability windows there, before any turns start, let's attach this Eureka to the first Atlas. Look at the top card. We've got the Harbinger. So not to lose track of my goal, I am on a Snark hunt. So what I'm really trying to do is reveal enough Tulgey Woods locations. And so to that end, I think that my turn is going to be revolving around kind of managing the enemies rather than just outright killing them. The Jabberwock's going away, I just need to evade him. The little bird can kind of follow me around and I can get clues with Gret on it, on Tommy. And we can, because we have the Mists out and we have an Enraptured in hand, we definitely have some room to keep running away from the Bandersnatch here. So let's go ahead and use our turns in such a way that we're maximizing the distance between us and the enemy and continuing on with our search. And I think that means that Norman here is going to be using Mists of Rilia to evade the Jabberwock. He does have Retaliate, which means that he's going to be dealing 1 and 1 back if I miss, and I'll be taking a direct horror from that. But I think that it's well worth the risk here. We're going to be 4, 5, 6, 7 against 3. 7 against 3 does get us up over a lot of the bag. And it also only leaves one token that can be pulled that would make us automatically fail because of the Cheshire Cat. The -3 token would be the only thing that would force an automatic fail. So let's go ahead and pull that token. We get a -2. Well, that's fortunate. That means he does get evaded. And because we pulled the -2, we're not going to be doing any discard effects. But more importantly, we do get to have the choice of whether or not we want to move to a connecting location or not. Now, looking at the map here, it seems like I have a couple options. I could head up to the Mound of Crags to get that revealed, because I'm probably going to do a loop down here. If that could be the last one of the 6 that I reveal. Presumably, if I get more horror out, more locations are coming out with that next forced ability. But I don't know where they're going to land, so it might not make for a nice, easy loop back. So I could move up, evade the Bandersnatch up there, and come back down, but then that puts me with the Jib Bird. So instead, I'm going to use Norman's Mists of Rilia add-on effect there to head to the narrow valley. This part of the wood sinks in a deep crevasse, scarcely big enough for a single person to walk down the center of. Fully exploring the valley will take quite a bit of maneuvering. 3 Shroud, 2 Clue location. If there is no horror on Narrow Valley, discard 1 per investigator events from among all investigators' hands at this location. Place a horror token on Narrow Valley from the token bank. Okay, interesting. Another one that you can cheese without clues. So I guess they're probably all going to have an ability like that. Okay, that's nice to know. So next, we're going to be evading the Bandersnatch at the same difficulty. 4, 5, 6, 7 against 3. Oh, and that's the -3, so that's the automatic failure. Oh, that's a bummer. Anyways, I guess that does use up the Cheshire Cat, at the very least. So what we'll do then is we'll just use one more token to evade him again. This time we are 7 against 3, and the -5 we can even turn into a success if we want to. A -2, so that's successful. And we get to evade him at our location. And then we also get to take a move, and I think we are going to use that move to head down to the rough hinterlands. A little bummed out that test failed there, but, you know, you kind of have to take the lumps as you get them. But it is what it is. Probably clear Harbinger next turn. Let's head over to Tommy and see what we're going to do about this little Borough. So we've got the Borough on us. We've got the Bird at the location. We've got the exhausted Jabberwock at our location, and then we've got that Bandersnatch that we can go catch up with. And I think what we're going to do is move over to the Bandersnatch, taking a horror from this guy, and start killing it this turn so that we can finish it off next turn. And I can use Grat to pick up all the clues off the location. So like I said, we're going to move over, and when we initiate the move, we're going to be taking a horror from the little guy attached to us. Oh, again, close reading, he's aloof. He's not attached to me. So we don't take any horror from that, obviously. But we can start unloading on the Bandersnatch to try to get rid of him. And then both of these guys are going to hunt after us. And it'll be kind of a similar idea. I can engage the Bird and just start punching at him to try and kill the Borough off. That'll get me the other clue. But that's my concern for next turn. For this turn, we did our one move, and we're going to start shooting at the Bandersnatch. We are at 4, 5, 6, 7 against 4. That is currently a -4, so that is a miss. And then again, we get a resource for that though. And then again, 7 against 4, a -1, that is a success. And we get another resource for spending another ammo. We do deal 2 damage to the Bandersnatch there, but I am catching myself in a rules error. When I entered his location, he should have readied, engaged, and attacked me. So I think I'm still going to do this knowing that that's what happens. So I'm just going to carry that out, because what I can do is let him kill Madame Lebranche, and then I can ever vigilant the Madame Lebranche I still have in hand back out once I've finished the Bandersnatch off. So that's definitely what we're going to be doing. So like I said, he would have dealt an immediate attack to me, and then during the enemy phase, he's going to be dealing another attack to me, which is going to finish her off. So that's our turns. We've got this Hunter Aloof enemy. At the start of the enemy phase, if he's ready and engaged, it attacks each investigator at its location in player order. But there's no one there at his location, so he's just going to be hunting, ba-boom, over here to Tommy. The Borough is also going to hunt, ba-boom, over here to Tommy. And then, like I said, the Bandersnatch is going to attack for 1-2, finishing off Madame Lebranche, and that is going to put her into my deck and give me 1, 2, 3, 4 resources for the total amount of damage and horror on her. Finally, everything on the board up here is going to ready, and then we're going to quickly do our upkeep. We have to remember not to fully do our upkeep over here on Norman, because he's got Harbinger on top of his deck. Deck can't be manipulated in any way. Our forced end of the round trigger occurs. We disengage the Jabberwock from all investigators, move it, and all tokens on it next to the agenda deck out of play. Like all my next to agenda deck, it's going to go over here, and upon rereading that, what I just said there, it does move all tokens to it. So I probably could have done a little bit of damage to it once it was evaded by Norman there. That might have been the better play, but I think that what I did was okay. And we can try and deal with him later once I've got a better weapon out that's enchanted. Maybe we can just kill him in one hit, in one round, instead of dealing with him over a couple of encounters. Another thing to consider is that I might want to intentionally get about with this to get courage from the Fragments of Alice, get him in the victory display that way when I'm close to finishing the level. Still, it's a blind play. I might not be able to make that work out. So we're looking at our 1 out of 5 Doom and our encounter cards for the turn. Whiffling Through the Wood. If the Jabberwock is in the victory display, this gains Surge. Otherwise, if he's out of play, put it in play at your location. If the Jabberwock's already played, deal 1 damage and 1 horror to all investigators at its location, then move it to your location. Well, that's dangerous. So he's just popping right back into play right here. I don't think this is the worst thing in the world. I can Stunning Blow him to try and get him off me. I think what's going to happen on Tommy's turn, depending on how Norman's Mythos phase goes, is we're going to shoot this guy to finish him off, and then Act of Desperation, the Thompson, onto the Jabberwock to evade him with a stunning blow. But we'll see. Actually, the Borogrove is going to prevent me from being able to do that, so we're going to have a think about that. Over here on Norman, we're drawing our card, which is the Duchess. Put her into play next to the agenda deck. When a cultist token is revealed, cancel that token, don't reveal another token. Then she surges into another Borogrove, but this time at Norman's location. Poor Tommy is pretty locked down. I can't deal with 2 damage because it'll get moved over to that little birdie. This should be gone. I can't do like a flare either. So I've got 2 damage there, I've got 3 damage there, I've got 2 damage there. There's definitely enough to kill stuff, but the problem is I have to waste a 2 damage attack on that little guy. Or I need to punch this guy successfully, which is not going to happen. Similarly, the Jabberwock also has Retaliate. So there's definitely a lot of ways that could go wrong if I just took a bear punch. This one's probably going to elicit some comments. I think what I'm going to do is actually play Ever Vigilant, and this is going to be like really weird. But so I'm going to be taking an attack of opportunity from the Bandersnatch for 1 and 1 and 1, and then I'm going to be taking an attack of opportunity from the Jabberwock for 1 and 1, and then I get to play my 3 cards, which is going to be a Bandolier for 1, a Madame Lebranche for 1, and an Executioner's Axe for 2. Now, I get my +1 willpower, which is pretty nice, but more importantly, I'm not so worried about this Thompson running out of ammo and stuff like that, and I'm not so worried about just like taking a bunch of damage if this doesn't go well, because I just added a decent amount of soak back into play, and I know I took some damage from that, but a bit of it went on these guys. So, yeah, I think I'm happy with that. What we're going to do is we're going to use the Executioner's Axe against the Bandersnatch, which is going to be attacking a total of 6 against 4, which is 2 up, which is fine odds. It's good enough for taking 2 swings, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So there's a Elder Sign. +2, you may move up to 2 damage and or 2 horror from Tommy to an asset you control, or vice versa. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move 1 damage to Madame Lebranche, and that's sufficient. And that definitely hits, but it does the damage to the Borogrove up here, which is going to defeat him. When I defeat him, I can use Gretz and deal a damage to her to gather a clue from the location. And then finally, we're going to use the Thompson, gaining a resource, spending the ammo, to be attacking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 against the Jabberwock's 4. This will be a 2 damage and evade hit if it hits. And that is currently a -4. So we definitely hit him for 2 damage. And more importantly, we also get to evade him. Good, I'm happy with that. That'll let me have this guy deal some stuff next turn during the enemy phase, but more importantly, it leaves this Act of Desperation open on the Thompson now that that's emptied. When Becky comes, if I can ever get Becky out of the deck, she'll be able to plop into play there. Very worried about rookie mistakes right now. Maybe shouldn't have moved that damage over onto Madame Lebranche, but we'll see what happens. Over here on Norman, we are definitely going to be clearing the Harbinger because we have time to do it now, and then we're going to lose all of our money to Paranoia because, of course, that's what happens, but then we get a Holy Rosary on the top of the deck, so that's fun. We're going to attach the Holy Rosary to this Astronomical Atlas because at the moment I just want to see more cards, and then we're going to attach this Guts to this Astronomical Atlas, and I just want to see more cards. Research Librarian. Okay, great. Okay, so finally what we're going to do is we're going to use our Astronomical Atlases in doing this willpower test, which is currently a difficulty of 4. I'm at 4. I can commit a Guts and a Rosary to it to be 8 against 4. Do I have another single icon in my hand? I don't think this Crystalline Elder Sign is going to be getting played this game. I just don't have any money because I use those Crack the Cases on Tommy. So we'll get 5 up for the purpose of this test. A Skull is a -1 at the moment, and so we definitely succeed. which is going to put those into that into my hand. Still forgetting about that. That into my hand as well. It won't get added otherwise. That into the discard. I draw 2 cards from the deck because of Guts, and then we place Horror onto the Rough Hinterlands. And now we have exactly 3 locations without Horror on them, so we read the Boots Trail. We bared our souls in this chase, the Boots grumbled, staring at a hole in his shoe. And yet the Snark hasn't worn out its own shoes. It must be climbing instead. The assumption doesn't seem quite right to you, though you spot movement atop a nearby cliff. The Rough Hinterlands, the Boots Trail. 3 Shroud, 2 Clue location. Action if there's no Horror on Rough Hinterlands, it tests 2 Agility. Gets +1 difficulty. If you succeed, place a Horror token on the Rough Hinterlands from the token bank, which is a star. So here's our connections for the new Rough Hinterlands we just revealed. It's connected to our other Rough Hinterlands, and then also to the Narrow Valley, the Field of Chasms, and both of these are connected to the yet unrevealed Crescent Moon shape. Flipping the top card of Norman's deck, we get a Guts level 2. And that was the end of his turn. So now we're looking at the start of the enemy phase. The Jub Bird is going to immediately attack Tommy. And we're going to put that attack directly to his health. Then the Bandersnatch is going to attack Tommy, and we're going to deal 1 damage to Madame Lebranche and 1 Horror to Madame Lebranche. And we're going to forego shuffling her into our deck. Reason being, I think that we need to find our next weapon and Becky and other cards in our deck a little bit more than I need a bunch of soak and a bunch of money. So that's the end of the enemy phase. We proceed into the upkeep phase, which gets us Kleptomania over here on Tommy, and gets us the Guts and the Livre d'Aibon. And then we need to think about what we're going to be discarding over here on Norman. I do suspect that assets are kind of not... They're a little dead to me right now. These Guts are also a little not great without the Sixth Sense in play, but I think I'm going to be working my hardest to get that Sixth Sense into play as soon as possible. So what we're going to do is, I've got all my tomes, the Research Librarian's gone. That puts us at 9 cards, I believe, right? 5 and then 4, yeah. I think we're also going to get rid of the Holy Rosary. We've taken no damage, we've got 2 Guts in hand. If we need to pass willpower tests, we can pass willpower tests. And again, at the end of the round, after he's readied, he's going to be getting set aside next to the agenda deck, just down here. Oh shit, what happened to these? Why are these in the wrong order? Uh-oh. I'll have to double check and see... Ooh, dear. I don't know what order I put them in. So it was the Barrister's Trail and the Butcher's Trail on top of it. Yeah, not quite sure how that happened, but I'll have to keep an eye out, make sure I'm not fudging any more cards around the table. Okay, top of the round, Doom goes up 1. And then we're going to be getting an encounter card over here on Tommy. And we get the Mome Wraith, who is a 2/3/2. If his location is a Horror on it, he gets +2 fight and +1 Horror. Now, fortunately, it doesn't, so hopefully Tommy can spend his turn kind of churning through a bunch of enemies. Over here on Norman, we get Curious and Curiouser. As an additional cost, investigate. If there are more clues on any other location than on your location, take 1 Horror. Test 3 willpower. If you succeed, discard Curious and Curiouser. Well, fortunately, we've got those Guts. I was just talking about how much of a pain these are going to be to use up. This is not going to be very hard to use up now. I think we're going to go ahead with Tommy first to see how he's going to handle this turn. I think what we're going to do this turn is we're going to just be taking a bunch of swings with the Executioner's Axe. I'm just a little nervous as to whether or not I'm going to be getting the damage I need out of it. So we're going to start off attacking the Bandersnatch, and we're going to let this guy live if we need to. But I really want to get this Bandersnatch dealt with so that Norman can come up without this guy readying, engaging, and attacking him. So let's go ahead and take 1 attack with our Executioner's Axe against the Bandersnatch. We are 4, 5, 6 against 4. We get an Elder Thing, which we can treat that token's modifier as a 0 or deal additional damage. Well, it's currently a -2. We don't need the additional damage or the modifier change, but we definitely defeat the Bandersnatch with our first attack of the turn. That's really good. We're going to go ahead and keep attacking the Mome Wraith. We're going to be attacking 4, 5, 6 against 2 this time. That's another one. We'll be taking the -2 modifier and dealing an additional damage. That is awesome. We kill him in one hit. I am loath to not get this clue with Gret, but I think I need that +1 modifier for my combat a lot more than I need the 1 clue. It's just so seldom that I've played her and her ability's been able to fire that it sucks to feel like I can't use her when it's an opportunity for me to use her. I think the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to 1, 2, 3 toss this enchant weapon onto the Executioner's Axe. Using up this spell slot here. So for Norman, I think we're going to use an Atlas to attach the lever to it. Just kind of conserve those icons where possible. And then we're going to use the other Atlas to toss an Enraptured onto it. And we'll be seeing the last delve off the top of our deck. So that's nice and locked down again. If there are more clues on any other location than on your location, take 1 horror. Well, I think that at the moment, certainly don't have to worry about taking any horror from the locations because they're equal. But we also don't need to investigate here at the moment. What we really could afford to do is investigate here or here. If I move to the Field of Chasms, that'll be my 6 revealed locations to advance my act. If I move to the Rough Hinterlands, that might be a bit less backtracking, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Yeah, I think the less backtracking is probably the better idea. Revealing the Field of Chasms lets me see my next act and be a bit more confident about what's going on with the scenario. So we're going to move over to the Field of Chasms. The tall grass forms rings around the rocky openings in the ground, each leading down several yards. It's a 4 shroud location, 2 clues. If there are no horror on Field of Chasms, discard 1 per investigator assets from among all investigators' hands at this location. Place a horror token on Field of Chasms. Oh, I could have done that before I did my discard at the end of the last turn there. But anyways, we do have our 6 revealed Tulgi Wood locations, so we get to advance. You and the other Snark Hunters report your survey of the immediate area, but the Bellman is occupied with his own discovery. Near the Tum-Tum tree, he stands above a small ditch where a discarded sword lies half buried in mud. "Bodyguard," he cries, looking for you. "It's sensible that the bodyguard should manage all our weaponry for once. We found the Snark. Come, collect this one. It should help us threaten the beast into submission." You oblige the Bellman reluctantly, but are pleasantly surprised to find the weapon of surprisingly good quality and condition. Choose an investigator to take control to set aside the Vorpal Blade asset. So I kind of flashed this on screen before the scenario started. It's a 3-cost, one-handed Wonderland item weapon. Combat agility, wild. Fight, you get +1 combat for this attack. This attack deals +1 damage. If an Elder Sign, Bless, +1 or 0 token is revealed during this attack, you may either heal 1 horror or deal an additional +1 damage. Choose one. If your target has the Monster, Abomination, or Shadow traits, you may choose both instead. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through and through. Cool. That's definitely going to Tommy. Especially now that I'm using the Executioner's Axe and the Vorpal Blade, I can very easily drop this 45 and maintain my willpower boost. The Hunting of the Snark. Despite the magnitude of the task and the inexperience of the other hunters, there seems to be some promise of success. All that remains now is to chase the trails wherever they may lead. Investigators at any location may activate the Bellman's abilities. If there is no horror on your location, spend 1 per investigator clues as a group. Place a horror token on that location from the token bank. It's the same ability as before. And when the Snark enters play, advance. Well, it sounds like we need to finish getting horror onto locations, so let's spend 2 clues from our clue bank right now and place a horror on Norman's location. And then last action, we're going to play a shortcut to move out to the Rough Hinterlands. And just to be a little safe, rather than placing the clues for the, spending the clues for the horror, we're actually going to investigate the location with an Enraptured from hand and an Enraptured from our Astronomical Atlas. Number 2 here. That's going to be 5, 6, 7 against 3. And my aim here is to get 2 more charges on my Mist of Relia. And I get a -1, so I definitely succeed. I get 2 charges. One of my Enraptures goes back to hand. Jesus Christ, if I don't forget to stop doing that soon, I'm going to lose it. And we also get our clue, which we don't take a horror from doing with Curious and Curiouser, because there aren't more clues on any other location. At the start of the enemy phase, the Jubjub Bird's going to attack me again. And I think now that I have a whole bunch of weapons at my disposal here, I'm just going to go ahead and take that damage on Gret, shuffling her into my deck. That's the damage there, and gaining 1, 2, 3, 4 resources. That's plenty of money to use. Look what I found. Whatever else I can get out of the deck whenever I can get it. And also this Borrow Grove is going to hunt towards Tommy as well. We will get our upkeep for Tommy, and we will get our upkeep for Norman. Survival Knife is pretty disgusting on Tommy. It's going to be a weird board state where I don't have any guns in a deck that is at least ostensibly a gun deck. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. We go up to 3 Doom. And I'm going to do this now before I forget. This does move up to -2s. And we get some encounter cards. Over here on Tommy, we get Test 3 Agility. Gets +1 difficulty and peril if the Jabberwock's in play. If you fail, take damage and lose 2 resources. Well, that's not hugely threatening. We are going to have to take that. Oh, I forgot to take a Horror from Kleptomania. So that'll defeat my Cherished Keepsake and shuffle it into my deck for another 2 resources. In fact, that should have happened before I got my draw for my Survival Knife, but should I redraw that? Yeah, I should redraw that, shouldn't I? Yeah, I should redraw that. Yeah. Jessica Hyde. Okay. Okay, so I'm testing 2 against 3. That's just going to fail. -1. Yeah, so I take a damage, and I lose 2 resources. The resources are really not a big deal, so let's get rid of that. And then Norman is going to get another Jub Bird at his location. So we're going to go ahead at the start of Norman's turn, or no, sorry, before Norman's turn starts, in the window that we get available, we're going to put a Perception onto one of them. And we are going to... Ooh, I think I leave the Arcane Enlightenment to play, right? Because I do want to get the Livre back out so I can keep cycling cards if I need to. No, I think I just need icons at this point, so we'll just put that right there as well. We got a Divination on the top of the deck. So in order to get the Butcher's Trail flipped over, we're going to have Norman spend 2 clues to place a horror on his location. The Butcher's Trail. The Snark has cut and run, the Butcher declares. We've sent it packing, and so it must have returned to its pack. You don't recall anything about Snarks being social creatures, but you are drawn to a nearby grove by a jumble of strange sounds. And we get the lovely backwoods, the Butcher's Trail. There's our Crescent Moons. All right, great. A 4 Shroud, 2 per investigator, 2 total clue location. If there's no horror on the Lonely Backwoods, search the encounter deck and discard pile for 1 enemy that does not have Surge, 2 instead if there are 3 or more players, and draw it. Place a horror token on Lonely Backwoods. Well, I don't really want to do that at all. So where do these guys go? Let's take a look. Alright, the Lonely Backwoods heads up here, attached to the Mound of Crags, the Wabe, and then wrapping back around the locations we just found before. I do appreciate this. I just, man, I find stuff like this really hard to internalize, so expect rules mistakes or strategy misplaced from this point on. Now Norman is going to move to that. And finally, he's going to play this Divination off the top of his deck for 2 resources. Oh, and there's a Storm of Spirits. Nice. I think Tommy's going to start hacking away at this Jub Bird finally after getting the absolute snot pummeled out of him for so long. What we're going to do is we're going to attack it with an act of desperation, tossing our Thompson at it for a ridiculous value of like 10 against 3. Which is going to be dealing +1 damage. If we succeed, we gain X resources. We definitely succeed. So we gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 resources. I think I need to include a way for this deck to spend resources more effectively, possibly on draw. But the damage does get redirected to the little guy. So bye-bye Borrow Grove. But that does leave us open to attack with the Executioner's Axe with the enchant weapon being used for a total of 4, 5, was this 6, 7, 8, 9? Against 3 for our last attack there. It's a -3, so he's definitely toast. And at the end of my turn, I take a horror from the Kleptomania. The Jub Bird is not have anyone to attack at the start of its turn, and we'll have him hunt to Tommy, and I think we're going to start leaving him behind, though. At that point, we get to do our upkeep for Tommy. and our upkeep for Norman, and we have to make a little choice on what to discard. I think we're going to be discarding our copy of, let's think, oddly, the Hierophant. I don't think that getting the lever at this point is going to be super useful. I don't have time to play the Arcane Enlightenment anyway, and I don't have any accessory slots being used up or anything. I don't need more slots for that purpose, so I think the Hierophant is going to be going away. We're up to 4 out of 5 Doom, and we'll do encounters for Tommy. Looking at another Looking Glass Swarm. Cannot deal more than 1 damage, cannot discover more than 1 clue while investigating in a double action to discard it, but first a test of 3 agility, which I'm likely going to fail. And that's a fail. And then Norman. He gets Eyes of Flame, test 3 willpower, gets +1 difficulty and peril if the Jabberwock is in play. So we're definitely going to be testing this. It's not at plus difficulty or peril. And we're going to be committing a Guts to this. We might also even commit this Arcane Enlightenment just to get it off of the... actually, you know what? Rather than the Arcane Enlightenment, we'll commit the Eureka. And that'll put us at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 against 3. We do succeed by 2, and we also get our Eureka effect. So first, let's look at the top 3 cards. Oh, look at that. It's those, so I'll draw my Research Librarian, and then I'll put that back. And I guess it'll get revealed technically, but then I'll draw 2 cards, which is going to do 1 off the top, reshuffle this, and then another one, and we'll take a Horror. That gets us Divination and our Crystalline Elder Sign, and then we reveal a Cracked Case off the top of the deck. And that does that. Technically, that Eureka shouldn't have been shuffled in, and I'll fix that in a moment. There we go. Alright, let's get that out of there, and let's discard that and proceed with our turns. Now, for Norman's turn, we're going to go ahead and do a first action Investigate with our Divination, which is going to be giving us +1 to Intellect. We're going to be committing an Enraptured from our hand and a Perception from this Astronomical Atlas. It just reminded me, talking about the Atlas that actually went to my hand rather than to the discard pile. And I'll be committing that as well. So we're at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 against 4. If we succeed, we can spend 2 charges. Ooh, and we auto-fail. There it is. All right, so all of that ends up a little bit wasted. But fortunately, we don't waste the Divination charge. So with that out of the way, what we'll do is we'll investigate again, also using Divination, committing a Guts, a Livre d'Aibon from this Atlas, and the Arcane Enlightenment from this Atlas, putting us at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 against 4. And that time we'll succeed. So we've got a couple of different effects to resolve. First, we'll do 2 charges off of Divination for 2 clues, right here. And then when we've got those 2 clues, what we're going to do is we're going to, once per round, play the top card of our deck at -1 resource cost, but that's going to let us 1, 2, 3, 4 resources for the 4 Shroud location. Then we reveal the top card of the deck. Next, the Arcane Enlightenment and Livre d'Aibon are going to go to our hand. Let's just fix that really quickly. I've really got to fix these hands at some point. And then we will trigger Guts. Because it succeeded by so much, we get to draw 1, 2 cards. And then the top card of our deck is a Holy Rosary. Well, that is way too many cards at the moment, but we did get both of those clues. Last action, we're going to get the Crystalline Elder Sign into play for 1, 2, 3 resources, sealing the +1 token for now. Over here on Tommy, we're going to spend an action and a clue off of each of them to place a horror on his location. That puts us at exactly 2 locations without horror on them, so let's read the Barrister's Trail. The Snark must be somewhere deep and lonely, the Barrister speculates, or it would have answered the summons I sent it. You're not certain of the Snark's ability to read at all, but the strange noises emanating from a nearby cavern give reason enough to search it. And we get another half crescent moon location with 4 Shroud, 2 clues. If there's no horror on the Lonely Backwoods, search your deck and discard pile for weakness and draw it. Place a horror token on Lonely Backwoods from the token bank. Victory 1 location. Oh yeah, look at those connections. That's beautiful. So then we're going to move 1 location away, down to the rough hinterlands. And then last action, we're going to spend 3 resources to put Jessica Hyde into play with her 2 damage. And at the end of our turn, she's going to immediately heal 1 of it. We're also going to add 1 horror from our Kleptomania. We're going to have to be really careful to get rid of that soon. TheBeard is going to go ahead and hunt towards Tommy because he's the closest investigator. Then we're going to have a very fun upkeep phase. 1 daring for Tommy, the Holy Rosary for Norman, deduction on top, and then a very onerous discarding process. We're going to be getting rid of the Hierophant, Sixth Sense, Holy Rosary, and Research Librarian. I think between this divination and this divination, my deductions that I see on the top of my deck here, I'll get another one throughout this shuffle. I'm probably good on clues for the scenario. Get up to 5 Doom, which is going to do another advancement. Hast thou slain the Jabberwock? The fiendish creature attacks with increasing frequency and fervor as you attempt to scour the Tulgi Wood. No matter where you turn, the Jabberwock's burning eyes and vicious claws are there to meet you. Even your best attacks leave you wondering if the beast can actually be killed at all. Search all play areas and out-of-play areas, including the victory display, for the Jabberwock, and move it to the lead investigator's location. So once again, he's getting placed down here with Tommy and one of these aloof Jib birds. Now we're at the trail grows cold. Even without accounting for the menace of the Jabberwock, the expedition's hopes are rapidly dwindling. The motley hunters cower in fear while the bellman proudly declares that the bodyguard will see them through yet. You have every intention of doing so, but the growing darkness and ravenous beasts of the wood may prove otherwise. We've got our same resign for a physical trauma and mental trauma as before with an 8 doom threshold. Countercard for Tommy, we're looking at Disjunction. Discard any number of cards from your hand or play whose total cost is equal to or greater than your location's shroud value. We've got a shroud value of 3. And so I think that means we're going to be losing our Vorpal Blade. Or else I would need to discard Jessica, Enchant Weapon, or the Executioner's Axe. And with the Executioner's Axe currently being enchanted by Enchant Weapon, I don't really like that very much. For here on Norman, he's going to get a Disjunction as well. Discard any number of cards from your hand or play whose total cost is equal to or greater than your location's shroud value, which is currently 4. I think that's going to put me at discarding my Livre des Bons and my Arcane Enlightenment to meet that 4 shroud value. So before the turns start, what we're going to go ahead and do is exhaust 1 Atlas to put this deduction on it, and then we will take a look what our next card is. It's an Enraptured. We'll exhaust our other Atlas to put the Enraptured on that. And there's our other deduction. Norman's going to spend an action to move down with Tommy. Then he's going to spend an action using Mists of Rilia to evade the Jabberwock, who we remember has an evade value of 3 against our 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a success. So he's evaded there at the location. And then finally, Norman is going to spend his 3 resources to play Storm of Spirits at the location. He's going to be using the attack against Jabberwock. Tommy over here is going to toss his daring into it, giving 3 wild icons. Commit only to a skill test during an attack against an enemy. That enemy gains Retaliate and Alert for the duration of the skill test. After the test ends, Tommy's going to be drawing a card. That'll put us at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 against 4. Nice 0. Perfect. So that's going to deal 3 damage to the Jabberwock, 3 damage to the Jub Bird, discarding him. And that'll be the end of Norman's turn. That's going to allow Tommy to draw a card at the end of the test as well. And then Tommy's going to use his turn to steal an item asset from Norman, which is going to be his Crystalline Elder Sign, giving Tommy +1 to each stat. And then he's also going to be doing a double action to remove this Looking Glass Swarm so he can start dealing more than 1 damage again. At the end of his turn, Jessica Hyde is going to heal a damage. And then we're going to do Upkeep, which is 1 for Tommy over here, another Act of Desperation, and then, whoops, well, that would have gone off anyways. The deduction would go to Norman's hand. He would lose all of his resources from the Paranoia. And then he would also reveal a shortcut off the top of his deck. Norman readies. The Jabberwock flees the location at the end of the round. We get 1 out of 8 Doom. And we're back to encounters. First, Tommy. If you do not control any clues, gain Surge. Well, that's a bummer. Test 3. This test gets +1 difficulty if the Jabberwock is in play. If you fail, take a damage and lose 2 resources. Well, we're testing 3 against 3. No way to boost it. Let's see what we get. -3, that is a fail, but we take 1 damage, which is going to go on Jessica, and we lose 2 resources, which really doesn't do much of anything. Over here on Norman, we flip the Cheshire Cat. That's a bummer. He's a bad mode now. And that surges into the Bandersnatch, the furthest location from all investigators. Now, I believe the furthest location is any of these 3. Because that's 1, 2, or 1, 2 to either of them. So we get a pretty much free reign of where we want to place him. I think we're just going to put him in this middle location because we're going to be heading back over this way to go pick up these clues anyways. No sense in putting him exactly 1 location away. One thing I did forget to mention here, the forced ability on the final location of the trail deck is the Baker's Trail. If there's exactly 1 location without horror on it, flip this card and put it into play. So we need to finish off the last couple of locations of horror. That's these 2 locations I want to get a horror placed on. And if you don't remember there, it's placing a horror for searching an enemy out of the deck, and then searching your deck for a weakness and drawing it to place a horror. But that said, I do have 2 clues at the moment, so we'll be able to place 1 for free. I'm going to be getting the other 2 clues to secure a victory, so we're not going to be too worried about those abilities printed on the locations. So Norman's going to go ahead and shortcut up to the other location, revealing a research librarian off the top of his deck while he does it. Landing him up here at the Lonely Backwoods. 4 Shroud location, he's going to be taking an Investigate there. Committing a Deduction from his Astronomical Atlas, and an Enraptured from his Astronomical Atlas. Let's see, is there anything else that I want to commit to this? Let's attach this Research Librarian so that we see what our next card is, and let's attach this Eureka so we see what our next card is, and then let's commit this Eureka as well. I should have done that in a different order, but you know how it is. Oh no, I can't actually commit that. What am I thinking? I just committed it off the Enraptured off of there. So we'll be investigating at 5, 6, 7, 8 against 4. Let's see what we get. A -3 is unfortunately succeeding by 1. So we automatically fail the test, and we flip the Cheshire Cat. That is a bummer. But that's okay. We can do another Investigate, committing a Deduction and a Eureka, using Divination again for 5, 6, 7, 8 against 4. We'll try that again. That's a 0. So this time we definitely get our 2 clues right there. And then we also have to spend 1 off that. We get to look at our top 3 cards for Eureka to draw one of them. Well, let's think. Is there any sense in purposefully drawing this right now? I don't think so. I may as well get the shortcut into my hand just so that I can do a little bit more movement stuff on my turn. So these are going to go back into the deck, shuffle, and get revealed. It is Harbinger. And when I discovered the 2 clues, I should have played Crack the Case to gain my 4 resources as well. So that's got us the clues we need to get all of the rest of the horror down. So we're just going to spend an action for 2 clues to place a horror on our current location, right there. Over on Tommy, we're going to take a move action to head up to the other Lonely Backwoods. And we're going to be spending another action to spend our 2 clues to place a horror on that Lonely Backwoods. And then, because we have exactly 1 location remaining with a horror on it, we're going to head down to read the Baker's Trail. Your attention is finally drawn to the Baker, who shouts without restraint and waves his arms wildly. It's a Snark! Calloo! Calais! Our quarry is finally in sight. The Baker's confirmation sounds too good to be true. Seeing as you've scoured the rest of the Tulgey Wood, however, if a Snark can be found here, at all, then the Baker's proclamation might be believed. Let's see what we got. The Snark, aloof, spawn, location without horror on it. The Snark cannot be engaged, damaged, or defeated. And he's up here at the Mound of Crags. When the Snark entered play, we advance. Snark ahoy, the bellman hollers. If it should prove no boojum, then after it with haste. You hurry towards the commotion and finally catch your first real glimpse of the Snark. Its appearance strikes you as being rather plain compared with the majority of Wonderland's other odd creatures. Could this really be the beast whose talents you need to escape these darkening woods alive? Catch all. Now is our chance, the bellman bellows. Seek it with thimbles, seek it with care. Pursue it with forks and hope. Threaten its life with a railway share. Charm it with smiles and soap. Only vary your methods, or the snark may grow suspicious. Investigators at any location may activate the bellman's abilities. We already knew that. Action. If you're at the snark's location, parlay. Test any skill for difficulty. If you succeed, place a token on the snark from the token pool according to the skill used. If you used willpower, use 1 horror. If you used intellect, 1 clue. Combat, 1 damage. Agility, 1 resource. If you fail, move the snark to a connecting location. If there are 4 total tokens on the snark, you must immediately advance. Well, that's interesting. So I've got 1 action left on Tommy, and I think what I'm going to do is spend 2 resources to use this flare off of my stick to the plan, and I'm researching the top 9 cards of my deck for an ally asset, putting it into play under my control, and then exiling flare if it's successful. Well, welcome to hell. I got no allies at all, so flare is just going to my discard. That ends Tommy's turn, removing a damage off of Jessica Hyde. The Bandersnatch is going to hunt, and I think what I'm going to do is allow him to hunt towards Tommy in this direction, because we're going to be going and trying to get the snark finished off. But also, I think Tommy's going to come over here and try and spawn the Jabberwock on the very last turn before we finish off the snark. That's our end of round, so we're doing upkeep over here on Tommy, drawing Becky. That's nice to see. We get our Bandolier bonus back up in a minute. And then we will be, well, obviously not doing anything with the card draw over here, but readying all of Norman's stuff. Going up to 2 out of 8 Doom. And an encounter for Tommy. It is going in circles. Peril, you must place 1 Doom on the current agenda, or remove a horror from any location, then add 2 clues on it from the token bank. Well, that's fortunate, because I don't know that horror on locations really matters anymore. Yeah, it seems like nothing here on the the act makes any mention of needing a horror anymore, so fortunately I think that's a bit of a gimme. Let's take the horror off the Tum Tum tree and place 2 clues on it. Over here on Norman, we get going in circles as well. This was extraordinarily fortunate to get these at this point in the scenario. I can only imagine these would have been way worse earlier on. But we'll do the same thing with the Narrow Valley, removing a horror from it and placing 2 clues. So for Tommy, we'll do a move to head over to the Snark, revealing the Mound of Crags, which is a 3-shroud location, 2 clues. If there's no horror on it, discard 2 skills from among all investigators' hands to place a horror on it. We're not too concerned about that anymore. Next, we'll go ahead and test the Act ability 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 against a difficulty of 4 to place a damage token on him, and that is successful. So we'll get a damage on him. There it is. And finally, we'll just do a draw action from the deck, drawing our last Liquid I Found, which is not going to be super useful, but I guess that's icons to help Norman place his down. So for Norman, we're going to go ahead and play a shortcut to head in, magically appearing at the Snark's location. We're going to double action to remove the Harbinger from the top of our deck, revealing this Perception off the top. And then we're going to attach this Perception to one of our astronomical atlases. Finally, we're going to do a test of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 against the difficulty of 4 to place another token, which is successful. So we'll be adding the Perception to our hand, and then we'll be drawing 1 card, which will shuffle the deck, deal us a horror, and then draw us a Research Librarian, and also reveal a shortcut off the top of the deck. And then finally, place a clue on Mr. Snark over here. The Bandersnatch is going to hunt up to the Lonely Backwoods, and then we're going to get our upkeep, which is 1 45 Thompson for Tommy. That's nice to see. It's a nice option for if the Jabberwock chooses to show up again on his own. And then over here on Norman, we get an upkeep where the shortcut goes to our hand and we get a Eureka on the top of the deck, which will be going on one of our atlases shortly. Up to 3 Doom out of 8. And let's take a look at our encounter cards. We get Nonsensical Advice. Shuffle any amount of cards from your hand back in your deck and draw an equal amount of cards. For each card you did not shuffle back in your deck, lose 1 resource. And that surges into Claws That Catch, testing 3. So we're testing 3 against 3. That's another take 1 damage and lose 2 resources. And we super fail that. We put a damage on Jessica and we lose 2 resources. Over here on Norman, we get another Curious and Curiouser. This goes into our threat area and continues to not do a whole lot. I don't think I've missed any triggers on this. I've been pretty careful about it. But if I have, I would have only taken probably 2 horror at max. So these are not doing a whole lot to us right now. Finally, before the turns get into full force, let's attach a Eureka to this Astronomical Atlas and immediately reveal the Harbinger. Super. So over on Norman, we're going to go ahead and double action to get rid of the Harbinger again, revealing the top card of my deck, which is a Paranoia, which is going to discard as well, revealing a Storm of Spirits on the top of the deck. After that, we're going to attempt the test once again on our Snarky Buddy. We're going to commit a Perception, a Eureka from the top of the deck, and a Look What I Found from Tommy, which is giving us 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 against 4. That's another success. The Eureka is going to be going to our hand. We're going to be looking at the top 3 cards of the deck to resolve the Eureka, and we're going to draw the shortcut. These are going to get shuffled away, and we'll reveal a new top card. The Perception is going to draw that top card, and then we will reveal one more top card. The Perception goes to the discard, and Look What I Found goes to the discard. Last but not least, the clue goes on Mr. Snark. Before Norman's turn is over, he's going to use Shortcut to send Tommy to the central location. Getting towards the end of the scenario here, I think what we're going to do is we're going to spend 1 action to play the 45 Thompson. Now our Bandolier is active again. We're going to spend an action to draw a card, and we're going to spend an action to draw a card. That'll get us plenty ready for when the Jabberwock spawns forcefully next turn and we put him into victory display. Hopefully get a VP off of at least one of our delves and deal with the Snark as well. The Bandersnatch hunts into poor Norman here, but he does not attack because of his ability. And then we get our upkeep. There's going to be a Glory for Tommy, this Storm of Spirits for Norman, and he's going to have to make a quick decision on what to get rid of. I think it's going to be, yet again, a Research Librarian. We're up to 4 out of 8 Doom. One of our last encounter cards for Tommy is going to be a Vanished Away, which moves the Cheshire Cat over into his control, and then surges into Impossible Paths, attached to your location. This is one we've seen before. When you would take an action to move, test 0 agility, equal to each location connected to your location. If you fail, cancel the effects of the move, double action to discard it. Fortunately, that's a pretty tame for him. And then over on Norman, we're just hoping not to get an enemy. We get Whiffling Through the Wood. If the Jabberwock is in the victory display, he gains Surge. This gains Surge. Otherwise, if he's out of play, put it into play at your location. If the Jabberwock's already in play, deal 1 damage and 1 horror to all investigators at its location, then move it to your location. Oh, that's not great. I think we're going to cancel that, because I wanted Tommy to be able to kill him this turn, so let's just cancel that. Oh, I guess I didn't need to cancel that at all, actually. I've got this ability here that searches all play areas and moves it here. But never mind that, I guess. We'll go ahead and use that ability to spawn the Jabberwock at Tommy's location. I'm just going to put him in the threat area for the sake of simplicity of your viewing experience. We're going to make an attack against him using an enchanted weapon, Executioner's Axe, which is going to have a total chance to hit of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 against 4. A skull, which is currently either a -2 or -3. Yeah, it's a -2 because it's half the Doom. And that's also a skull, which can be modified to a 0 or deal an additional damage. So we're going to be dealing a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 damage to him, sending the Jabberwock into the victory display. He's going to play a Glory for having defeated him, putting a Kleptomania into play. That's hilarious. And then last action, he's just going to take a resource for a job well done. At the end of our turn, we're going to heal a horror from him. Sorry, heal a damage from Jessica, and take a horror from Kleptomania.
Important to remember, I need to record courage up here in the Fragments of Alice for having seeked out the Jabberwock to snicker snack. So what we're going to do with Norman here is we're going to shortcut away from our current location over to the lonely backwoods, bringing the Bandersnatch with us. And then we're going to use one of our atlases to put a guts onto that atlas, and then use the other atlas to put a deduction onto it. But more importantly, we're going to be using Mists of Rilia to evade the Bandersnatch. That's 4, 5, 6, 7 against 3. We will commit the guts to that to be 7, 8, 9, 10 against 3 to evade it. -5, good thing we went so high. 10 minus 5 is 5, so we do get our double draw off of it. We're just going to draw both of those and put a Eureka back on top of the deck. Let's just scoot those over now. Putting the Bandersnatch evaded at our location, and then we're going to use the ability on Mists of Rilia to scoot back over to the Mound of Crags. And we don't have money for delves, so we are going to take a resource and another resource. I know that puts us at 3, but I don't think I want to take a resource and play a delve this turn. That seems a little unnecessarily risky. So the Bandersnatch will ready. We'll quickly do our upkeep here. That's the Dormouse for Tommy. And then our Eureka and a Guts back on top of the deck. We're going to get rid of this Divination. We no longer need that for our purposes. Looking at 5 out of 8 Doom. Now let's see what we've got over here for Tommy. Whiffling through the wood. The Jabberwock is in the victory display. Gain Surge. Whew, okay. That's fine. Disjunction. Discard any number of cards from your hand or from play whose total cost is equal to or greater than your location's Shroud value. We're looking at a Shroud value of 2. We're just going to comfortably discard the Star. I don't think that's really necessary right now. It's just that would just give Jessica like a little bit of extra soaking, and we're at the end of the scenario. Not a big deal. And then for Norman, we get the last copy of Curious and Curiouser. Wow. Thank God we don't need to investigate anymore, because that would be painful. Let's go ahead on Norman. We're going to do our first Delve Too Deep of the turn, which is going to, in player order, draw cards from the top of the encounter deck and then add this to the victory display. The encounter card for Tommy on our first delve is the Caterpillar. Okay, that goes into next to the agenda deck here, where I like to put these things. Then we also surge into another Impossible Paths at his location. For Norman, we get the Eyes of Flame, testing 3 willpower. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach this Guts to this Astronomical Atlas, revealing the next card in the deck. Let's also attach that Holy Rosary. That's just another decent icon. This is a horror and discard 2 cards at random from your hand. Well, yeah, that's fine. So we'll commit the Guts to it, and we will commit a Eureka to this as well. That puts us at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 against 3. 0 is successful, so we're going to use Eureka to look at the top 3 cards and choose one to add to our hand. We're going to add the Arcane Enlightenment to our hand, and then we're going to shuffle the deck, reveal the top card, and then, well, I don't really need to reveal it because I draw 2, and then I reveal that card instead. We'll just fix that really quickly. There we go. So that's the first Delve Too Deep completed. We'll go ahead and we'll risk the other Delve Too Deep as well. Over here on Tommy, that gives us a Looking Glass Swarm. We're testing 3 against 3 right now. We could commit this. We're going to commit Becky to this to be 5 against 3. I believe these are currently at a -3. So yeah, 2 actions have been taken this turn. We'll get 6 against 3, and we will pass that test instead of putting it in our threat area, just in case things go sideways. And then over here on Norman, we get a Slithy Tove with Hunter Alert. After you successfully evaded, move it to a connecting location and ready it. And that gets our other delve into the victory display. So we're going to go ahead and do the test to get the Snark, which is going to, well, because it's a parlay, I don't think we trigger attacks of opportunity. Slithy Tove is at our location and engaged with us, but it's a parlay, so that won't be happening. We'll commit this from our Astronomical Atlas, and we'll commit these from hand to be at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 against 4. 0 puts on this lovely horror token on the Snark. Now we've achieved our 4 total tokens on the Snark, and we must immediately advance. You try every tactic you can to lure the Snark into capture. After minutes of half-hearted interest, the strange creature finally calms enough for you to approach and lay hands on it. Masterfully snatched, bodyguard, the bellman cheers, clanging his bell to gather the scattered expedition around. R2. The Snark looks up at you meekly, almost tamely, as the other hunters gather around to view their prize up close in the fading darkness. Questions fly and theories puncture each other until the bellman gathers everyone's attention once more. We have found success, or rather, success has found us, given the circumstances. 3 cheers for the bodyguard who first laid hands on the beast. The hunters cheer and call for a celebratory feast. But with only the Snark available to cook, they agree it would be a terrible waste. The Snark, in the meantime, sits quietly in the center of the group. The many purported uses for the beast seem beyond its capabilities, but for its ability to lead you safely out of the woods. The Snark, and you by extension, must know every inch of these woods by now, for all that you covered during the chase. For minutes at a time, it studies each of the hunters in turn before directing its attention back at you. The creature is observant, another quality that no doubt helped it stay out of harm's way until recently. You stare into the Snark's eyes, and you lock for several seconds, before it speaks to you in perfect English. I've been told it's rude to stare. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of each card in the victory display, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 2 locations, 5, 6. Resolve whichever of the following is true. Choose one. If there is more than 1 per investigator clues on the Snark in your campaign log, record that the investigators puzzled the Snark. Each investigator earns 1 bonus experience. So that's the one we'll be getting because I don't think any of the rest of them are true. Continue to Resolution 3. Before you can respond or put the Snark to use, the bellman returns from the discussion with a bottle in one hand and his bell in the other. He offers you the bell to drink from and sloshes the bottle around as if ringing it. You politely decline. I'll celebrate your diligence another time, after we've celebrated the catching of the Snark, he posits. You urge the bellman to save any partying at all for after you've left the increasingly darkening woods. Quite sage, the bellman muses. Were I not the leader of this venture, you'd make a fine one indeed. Your duty and honor should now be the first use of a Snark. He gathers the hunters around you and the creature, watching expectantly. You ask the Snark to take you all out of the Telgi wood, if it can. It nods, shrugs, twitches, twirls, and suddenly, you stand at the forest's edge, with the first rays of sunlight beginning to weave through the trees. The hunters all clap and cheer and call for grog as they marvel at the sudden change. You look down to the Snark, but the creature has vanished away completely during the transition. Masterful, once again, the bellman applauds. We'll save the rest of it for a rainy day, or snowy should the seasons permit, but in any case, I call an end to the hunting of the Snark. The various hunters all congratulate each other and wander away from the clearing by themselves or in pairs, seemingly unconcerned about the sudden disappearance of the Snark. Finally, only the bellman remains standing next to you. Through all the months and weeks of hunting, it never occurred what might precede the finding of the Snark. Should you have another expedition in mind, I would gladly pass the days as its leader. Another ally would be welcome as you traverse the rest of the Wonderland to save both Arkham and Alice, and so you tell the bellman just enough about your journey to recruit him without any fuss. In your campaign log, record 1 tally under the strength of Wonderland. Any one investigator may choose to add the bellman to his or her deck. This card does not count towards that investigator's deck size. Check the campaign log. If the investigators went down the rabbit hole, proceed to Interlude Humpty Dumpty. And that's where we'll be leaving it off today. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. This was a pretty cool scenario. I liked this one. The connections were a little confusing. The bellman, I think maybe I underutilized. There were a couple of treacheries there that I was very much not paying a whole lot of attention to. Pretty sure he's going to be going into Norman's deck. That's a lot of soak. He currently only has 2 research librarians. Not that he's taking a lot of damage because of how good Tommy is at taking the punches, but it's definitely going to be the +1 willpower will be very useful for him going forward. So, once again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next